أهلا وسهلا بكم في هذه الحلقة من برنامج حوار خاص، وضيفي في هذه الحلقة هو الأستاذ محمد شعيب المتحدث باسم لجنة التنسيق بين العرقيات لمسلمي ميانمار، وهو رئيس قسم العلاقات الدولية فيها. Welcome to the program, brother Muhammad.
Thank you so much.
Now, I've been reading a little bit about the background to the crisis in Myanmar. Bورما, as it used to be called,
Yes.
Was a British colony for many decades. And then from the 60s, there was a military dictatorship that nearly closed the country to the outside world.
Yes.
Have always been Muslims in that part of the world, and how were they treated? I mean, I'd like to understand from you the background to the current crisis.
Yeah. If I may highlight background of slightly the history, how Muslim came to Burma. Muslim were in Burma since 10 centuries. So it's long time, more than 1,000 years Muslim are already in Burma.
Where did they come from?
They come from, there are three ways Muslim came from, four ways. India, from Middle East, from Persian, from China side. They are Turk, and also some Arab traders, and some Yemen, from Yemen, South Yemen, and also from Indian continent. So, because before Burma, between Middle East and Indonesia, so many Arab traders travel between these two places. And during monsoon times, rainy season, because the weather is very bad that area. So most of the traders, they shelter in Burma for 6-7 months. Some of them settle here, settle there. Some of them, they take their wife and go back and say married here. So by this, with the coastal line of Burma is very busy before.
So it was on the trade route?
Trade route, yes.
Between what is today the Middle East and Indonesia.
And also there were Turk army came from during the Kublai Khan. He attacked Burma at that time, and he invaded. And from that generation, also Turk generation also remained in Burma as well from northern side. And the Persian traders, Persian were also those who work in militaries during the Mongol kingdoms in Burma. They also send the help, for some political changes in Burma. So they also remain in Burma as well. So there are many ways. Sometimes they are prisoner of war. They send them to settle in different locations in Burma. But one thing is very significant, that during the last kingdom of Burma, most of the high-ranking key positions in the military and administration were Muslims. Like in Mandalay, if you go to Mandalay, the central Burma, where the former royal court was established, they had even the mosque is inside the palace. They had a mosque inside, but the military government, they destroyed that. There are so many religious premises they built on the name of the same military or the administration names. For example, they have a bodyguard of the kings. They have their own mosque. The artillery they have their own mosque.
So this was similar to the situation in India during the Mughal time.
Yeah. One very special thing we have in Burma is, during that last kingdom, he sent a delegation to Mecca to build a guest house for Burmese Haji. The king was a Buddhist. But he built that. That shows how Muslims were, influential and significant in Burma, in the history of Burma.
When then did things start turning against the Muslims?
In 1936, when the first time Indian labor, during the British time, Indian labor and the Burmese labor start fighting together, each other. In 1938, it directed towards Muslims rather than Indians. And after that, 1940s, during the Civil World War, and after that, the independence movement, the riots happened between the two communities and different communities. But when it became institutionalized, during the 1962, when the General Nevin took power, he established a very strong institution and very systematic method to persecute Muslims in Burma.
But that regime is known to have been tough, not just on Muslims, but on the entire population.
even Muslims, Christians, and Buddhists as well. So I will show you how, I'll tell you how the categorize happen. The first class in Burma, first class community is Burma, ethnic Burma, and Buddhist who belong to military families. They are the first elite community. And the second is the Christian community who belongs to ethnic minorities. And the third class is the Muslim. Whoever it is Muslim, considered as a third class.
You mean that this sort of classification is more contemporary, right?
It has been long time, and it is contemporary as well. It is because we call it unwritten law. This law is not written in the law book, but it is practicing by a policy, the government policy. The military has their policy. You know.
Now the word Rohingya, now we hear a lot about what is happening to the Rohingya. Is this something to describe the Muslim community of Myanmar or what?
Okay, Rohingyas are of course Muslims community, but in Burma, the whole Burma population is 55 million. And the Muslim populations are around 7 million. And Rohingya populations are around 30% of the Muslim population.
So not all Muslims in Myanmar are Rohingya?
No, not Rohingya. There are 6 groups. One group is called Pati Muslims. They are mixed, most of the Arabs and Indian descendants. And the second group is Rohingya, and the third is Kaman. They are mostly Persians. The fourth is Pande, Chinese Muslims. And the fifth is the Malay Muslims in the south. And the sixth is some mixed group called Medu Muslim. They have some background history from the west, but west means Arakan state, and from that side they migrated that group inside from Indian continents, so northern India or some places they were in Burma then.
So the proper pronunciation is Rohingya, not Rohingya.
Not Rohingya, Rohingya.
Rohingya,
Right.
Rohingya.
Rohingya.
What does it mean? Does it mean anything?
Rohingya is the children of the land. That some Rohingya told me that they have, and during the.
In which language, children of the land?
It is their language, Rohingya language. Rohingya is a proper language they have.
So the language is Rohingya as well?
Yes, Rohingya language. And their language is sometimes considered slightly similar with the Bangladesh, eastern Bangladesh, Chittagonian side. They have slightly, some similar dialects and some similar terminologies. But Rohingya's language is not only spoken by Muslim only. There is another group which is called Maramaji. They also have same appearance like Rohingya, same language, same food, but they are Buddhist.
Oh, really?
So they are Buddhist, that's why they are accepted as an ethnic of Burma.
Are they the ones who are leading a rebellion at the moment?
No, they are not. The Rakhine, they call Arakan. Arakan state, they have different groups. And one of them is the major group is Rakhine group, Rakhine people.
Oh, they are the ones who are rebelling?
Yeah, they are fighting against the central military.
But they are in the same areas where the Rohingya are?
Rohingya.
Now, are the Rohingya alone targeted, or all Muslims are targeted in Myanmar?
The major policy, they started in 1969. They established one institution. This institution trained all the government employees. In that government training, they brainwash the government employees against anti-Muslims. How Muslims are dangerous. Muslims are a threat to the country. Muslims are a threat to the Buddhism. These two ideology has given to all government employees. So they hate us from the bottom of their heart. So the Muslim, they look like as a threat. So we have to, if we are going to any government official offices, our job will not done unless we go there several times or we pay so much money. It is very hard for us to do anything.
What is the root cause of this? Is it religious? Is it ethnic? Is it some sort of a vendetta?
It is both, because you see the Burma ethnic, the chauvinistic, those who are ultra-nationalist, you look at Burma's background, it is a colonized country. During the anti-colonial movement, the nationalism is one of the driving force. But this nationalism becomes toxic once we get the independence, and we cannot diminish that. So it starts looking for different targets. It started targeting everyone.
Nationalism inevitably leads to fascism.
Yes, that's fascism is, and unfortunately, Burmese military was trained by Japanese fascist army that time. Look at Japan, it's totally changed now, but the Burmese military never changed. And they never faced any institutional changes. They remained the same strategy. For example, four-cut strategy. Four-cut strategy means they deprive of the community food, medicines, information, any human resources. So the way they target the rebellions, they destroy the whole community. And scorched earth policy, all their population has been get rid of, wiped out from that place. So they cannot revolt again. So this community become destitute, and they destroy their morality. They rape the women, the children, they kill the children. So they scare, they create the fear under the, that kind all fascist idea is still practiced in Burma by the military.
Now, I read in some reports that the events of 2017, that's when this mass exodus happened, were triggered by attacks perpetrated by some Muslim militants against army positions, various army positions. Now, is this true? And if so, what triggered that?
It is, this group has, the existence of that group has a very doubtful and very questionable. Earlier, we thought that is a desperate action of a desperate people. That's what we were considering earlier. But later on, we find that we see some kind of similarities and some kind of doubtful, questionable actions by them. What we are considering is maybe they are colluding with the military in order to push all this community back to Bangladesh, or push back out of Burma.
To provide the justification?
Yes. And one of the questionable point is, how could a small groups without any training, without any arms, without any proper arms, can coordinate an attack in 30 locations at the same time? That's not possible. And people who are later on, they are killing each other.
Well, they probably were planning for this for quite some time.
And they are targeting own community, those who are ulamas, those who are educated people from the community. They start targeting them, and also they fall into drug business. So that is a very dangerous phenomenon. The way they have descended to.
But nevertheless, this was used as a pretext by the army in order to drive out of the country large numbers of Muslims.
Yes, and the military operation happened. The military has been planning a long time, because they have been sending. We have been monitoring. Our team has. I also run Burma Human Rights Network, so my work is monitoring the human rights situation in Burma. So we always monitoring where the military is sending their troops. Especially there is a 33 battalion is very famous for the notorious and for their brutalities. They send that battalion to Rakhine State, so that triggered us. How this has happened. There must be something going on. So we've been monitoring that. So they triggered that attack, and simultaneously they surrounded so many villages, hundreds of villages. They attacked the community there.
Now, hundreds of thousands of Rohingya Muslims were forced out of their homes. Thousands of villages were burned down. But there are still many hundreds of thousands of Muslims still living in that area.
Yes, our estimation is nearly 600,000. Among them, at least 40%.
Those who were dispossessed, or those who remain?
Who remain in the 600,000 Rohingya still in Rakhine State, but half of them are in the refugee camps. Within Burma, IDP camps. Itself. IDP camps. So their situation is very.
Who runs those camps? Who manages?
Actually, they are not that much well managed. They have been left alone, and they don't have proper support. There are some humanitarian organizations still operate some places. They try to find ways to support them. But still they are facing a lots of humanitarian crisis in Burma. They are still there since 2012. So all the questions come, whenever we talk about repatriation, we ask that what about the people who been sent to IDP camps since 2012? Settle them first. Right? Send them back to their places. They belong the lands. They have their properties. And now those properties were taken away by some Rakhine leaders, some Burmese military members and politicians. So that's very, impossible for them to go back.
Now, initially, Bangladesh opened its doors
Yes.
and provided shelter for those forced out of their villages and homes. But later on, it seems that the government in Bangladesh changed its mind.
But I don't.
What's
think,
going on? I mean,
I think they don't change the mind. The way they have been, they've been approaching Burma because they have been receiving refugees since 1978.
Oh, long before the crisis started.
Long before the crisis, they've been receiving, and they have been doing all their best diplomatically to send them back, the people from Burma. They want them, Burmese military government, to take back their populations, but they only increase. So now Bangladesh has under heavy burden. So we can't blame them. But also one thing is they accepted these people, and we appreciate that. But also now they have some responsibility to allow these people to practice their own rights. Like they need education, they need some humanitarian support. But I understand the Bangladesh government has a huge burden. So international community need to help Bangladesh government.
Now, beyond Bangladesh, how has been the response of the Muslim countries?
Muslim countries like Malaysia sent some medical teams and support there. Turkey also did. Until today, they're doing a lot of work. But the point is, you see, humanitarian crisis is one thing. The political movement and the right for the people is other thing. We don't see any Muslim country support in that field. That is what, unfortunately, we are finding a lot of difficulties.
So politically speaking, they are silent.
But not that completely silent. Like OIC has done some good work. Like now the case in ICJ, Gambia has led the case against the Burmese government, the country, in the ICJ court now. But this is very important to support the movement on the ground. People who are fighting for the right for the people. Right? Unfortunately, sometimes we only talk about the Rohingya situation, Muslim situation.
You say fight, do you mean support those who are fighting actually?
I mean, fighting means struggling for their rights, right? For their right. Because
so what is required? What do the Muslims of Myanmar
for example,
want?
7 million population doesn't have one media. We don't have one media to talk about our narratives. Military have several media. Overwhelmingly, wherever you go, any media, they have their narratives about us. They are blaming us, they are accusing us, so many nonsense. But this becomes sometimes, when you keep lying someone, when it takes time, they become truth. And another thing is some places in Burma, majority places, they have not advanced, in education, in technology. So they believe those things. And when it's heard only from one side, all this 7 million population, their life is under very dangerous now because the military is never stopped their committing genocide. You look at what is the consequence they have for committing genocide against Rohingya people, nothing. So they have encouraged by that. They are encouraged by the wall silence. And we, from the Muslim community, we try our best to support, to fight back. But non-violence way, we get some support from US and in Western governments. But of course, we also need help. It is not enough for us because we don't have a single media to talk about our narrative, to tell our stories, to tell the world how we are facing.
And now, apart from Bangladesh, no other Muslim country is accepting refugees?
Malaysia did a lot. Malaysia has been taking all the refugees, despite they have so many trouble situations. More than 200,000 Rohingya refugees are living in Malaysia. Despite they are not signed in the Geneva Convention, still there are Christian groups and Muslim groups are sheltering in Malaysia.
Now, this regime in Myanmar is a despotic military dictatorship.
Yes.
Are there any potentials for the Muslims of Myanmar cooperating with people who are struggling for democracy in that country?
Of course, we have very strong alliance with the Christians and Buddhist community. Because now in the revolution, the outcome of revolution is, but historically we have a very strong relation with the Christian community in Burma, like ethnic groups. But the difference is in Burma, all the minorities, those who are suffering, they have everything what they needed, except Muslims. So for those minorities, they have their own armies, they have their own military academy, they have their own universities, they have their own political parties, they have their own institution, their own funding. They have a lot of well established. But for Muslims in Burma, we are not able to do anything because we have been targeted by two ways. When we are struggling inside Burma, we have been infiltrated by the government agents, and those been arrested, those been killed, and then most of the time they destroyed from within, creating so many disputes and disunity. So we came outside, and we are doing a lot of work from exile. But it doesn't mean we are only out. We have a lot of people, members, or groups inside Burma. They are quietly working with us, cooperating with us. So this movement is now standing up. Now we have several members now. We have met during this revolution started in last year February. So all Muslim groups come together, and we have discussed that no, we need to do something. This democratic movement is our cause as well, because this is the right for every minority to live with dignity. So we have to fight back. We have to do all our possibilities. So we come together and we form this triple MCC, Muslims of Myanmar Multi-Ethnic Consultative Committee.
Now, going back to the root of this conflict, is it the military dictatorship that is agitating against the Muslims, inciting the general population among the Buddhists, or is it a religious conflict in its essence? No, because see, the general impression is that Buddhists are usually people for peace, not for massacres or ethnic cleansing as we have been seeing. So what is driving this?
In my understanding, none of any religion will promote bloodshed or violence. All religion is talk about justice, peace, faith, love, and unity. But when it comes to political level, when it comes to security level, when it comes to the exploitation by some people, then religious is not immune by that. So go back to Burma, we don't have religious conflict in Burma. This is a systematic persecution using one major religion against other minority religions. So by the people in the power.
Religion is a tool.
It become tool. So for example, we have a very strong relation and alliance with Buddhist monks, Buddhist activists, and I have my good colleagues, my good friends, some Buddhist monks as well, but Christian fathers and priests and some ulamas, and they all we work together.
So it would seem to me that the solution to this crisis is not just related to the Muslims and their position. It's related to the entire regime.
Absolutely.
Changing the nature of the regime in Burma.
Yeah, because the solution for Burma is, what I always said is, violations of one's human rights is violations of everyone's right. Because today that person's done, and next day tomorrow it will be yours. So that is all we have seen in many places in World War II and everywhere.
True. And even the Prime Minister, who at one stage denied there was genocide, she is now in prison.
In prison. So that is, we have to fight back all injustice with anyone, no matter it sometimes concerned with you or yourself or not. Whenever there is unjust, because that's what our Islam has been taught us. Our Prophet has been given this clearly, in Quran and Hadith Sunnah, and that's what our religion is main principle of our religion is justice.
Now, how can Muslims, and probably not just Muslims, how can people of the world who believe in justice and human rights, how can they help this cause?
The most important thing is there are many groups fighting against the junta in political, in military, in media, in many ways. So we need their support. The support is not just one-off. We need a sustainable support. So we can stand up on our own. We need to do whatever we have. And the peoples is now very much united now. This is the first very rare occasion in Burma.
Which people? You mean the people of Burma?
People of Burma.
All of them?
All of them.
United against the junta?
Against the junta. Because the military is committing the same attack, brutalities they did with the Rohingya, and now they're doing everywhere.
With others?
With everyone. They're killing Buddhist monks as well. They're more than hundreds of, I lost my count how many churches has been destroyed in Burma. It's really sad when I saw it a few days ago, One of my colleagues, he's also a priest, Christian priest. He went to those places and he posted the video. When I saw that, it was heartbreaking because it reminded me a few years ago how the mosque has been destroyed and the Quran has been burned down in Burma. So we have seen those pictures and similarly, they are also targeting the mosque and all the Muslims as well right now. So the policy of the country is genocidal policy against Muslim is always there. But when the country is in the fight, they are targeting everyone. So what we are thinking, what we are understanding is if this revolution is calmed down, whether it's success or fail, definitely Muslim turn will come back after as long as this military remain in the power.
So would you then suggest that turning this conflict into an Islamic versus Buddhist conflict would be a wrong strategy?
No, that's not totally no. Because I have so many Buddhist friends who put their life in danger to protect Muslims. Right? I have so many friends in even Buddhist monks. They have opened the monastery, and they said when the mob were surrounded, they said, "Kill me first before you touch the Muslims." That kind of support we have in Buddhist community, but it is not everywhere. There are also some Buddhist monks who will be infiltrated by the military. They are causing so many problems. And one of the Buddhist monks said, "Killing non-Buddhists is not sin." He gave that kind of sermon to the military generals. Killing non-Buddhists is not a sin. And he's a world-famous Buddhist monk.
Every dictator has his own men of religion.
Absolutely. That's the kind of thing. Yeah.
Well, Brother Muhammad Sha'ib, it's been really enlightening for me, and I hope it's been enlightening to our viewers as well.
Absolutely.
And thank you very much for coming to
Thank you so
حوار
much
today.
for the opportunity. Thank you.
نشكركم على المتابعة ونلقاكم في حوار خاص قادم إن شاء الله.